Hi, this is Bob Samuels, and I have the pleasure to reconnect with Samantha Stone. Samantha, how are you today?
I'm good, Bob. It's always a nice change of pace to get the chance to chat with you.
Absolutely, but I have to say it's just a cloud over us. It's just so the world has changed certainly since the last time we spoke.
Oh my goodness, and it's changing every hour, it seems. There's new information, there's new things to do, there's new actions we should take. All of that is, I think, affecting how we think, how we move, where we go, where we don't go. So certainly all of us are adjusting. And in fact, you may hopefully not hear, but I have two students who are homeschooling today, online classes in other parts of my home.
You
Uh,
have helpers.
I do. You should see the board that I created that is
Aw.
color coded, agile like approach to our home life balance right now.
Yeah, so let me paint some background for everybody. Today is Wednesday, March 25th. I'm in California. We've been on official lockdown since, I guess it's been like 10 days or so, I don't know. But we've been unofficially locked down, meaning not going out at all and not really interacting with anyone for like at least a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. I don't know. It's hard to remember. Samantha, if you can give a little where you're at now, and then also your background on B2B marketing. But you know what it's important to talk about this whole coronavirus thing, how it's affecting
Yeah.
the whole worldwide, touching other people, which is marketing. I mean, that's what it's about. At any rate, if you can give a little background.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure to do that. I'm actually here right outside Boston, Massachusetts. We have been following social distance protocols in my personal home for about 3 weeks now. I have a medical condition that makes me particularly vulnerable to the virus and to having severe reactions should it happen. So we've been pretty early on jumping in. My husband is considered an essential worker, so he is still leaving the house every day and going to work. But we are, doing all the other things that we should be doing. We're limiting, we're not visiting with anyone anymore. We're limiting going out to medical appointments, pharmacies and grocery stores. And honestly, we've even gone as far as to try and order as many meal kit services, Green Chefs and HelloFreshes of the world as we can to limit the need to even go to the grocery store. So we've been certainly cautious in my home, but also I'm spending a lot of my work time right now, which I've been doing about 14-hour days now for the last 10 days or so, as we've been helping companies figure out how to communicate to their communities about the things that are happening in their business, how they're going to be adjusting and supporting customers in this time of remote work, how their supply chains may or may not be affected, the protections they're making for their employees. So we've been spending an awful lot of time talking with teams, sales teams, marketing teams, operations teams, trying to help make sure that those organizations are being very transparent in their communications and are responding and adjusting their marketing plans in accordance with what's really happening in the world around all of us.
So you have some real live case studies that you could share, and you don't have to name the companies, but then maybe the industries would help.
Yeah, I'd be
Or the
happy
types
to.
of personas that they're trying to deal with. Are they communicating with their customers, with their prospects?
Yeah.
Who should they reach out to? What should they talk about? Do you
Yes.
get involved with telling them what to say, or is that their thing?
So certainly I'm involved in all of those things. I never tell anybody what to say, but I do hopefully guide and advise and have an objective outside perspective to lend an eye and an ear to what the plans are. We're working with everything from software companies to companies that provide content or training. We're working with companies who are more on the online retail side of the house, who sell, physical items. So we've been working with a host of organizations in a whole bunch of different capacities. And we've been working with them on their internal communications to employees. We're working with them on their external communications to customers. Those communications have tended to be fairly straightforward and are probably an easier conversation to have. The conversation that's gotten a little tricky is often with prospects and the community at large. We've all received in our email boxes the message from companies that we didn't even know our email addresses were subscribed to at this point, right?
That's funny.
So, those are probably less important. But what the guidance that we're giving people that I think is really critical and really important is to recognize that unlike other disasters, so there has been times in history, we had floods in Texas last year. We all remember hurricanes and Hurricane Katrina. We've had, terrible, terrible earthquakes in Haiti.
Very isolated regional.
Right? There have been things that we've had to respond to. Nothing like this has happened on a global situation where there is not a single person in the world who is not affected in some way what is happening. And that means that we have to recognize that our communities have gone into survival mode and they are not capable psychologically of thinking about what I might need in 6 or 12 months from now. They're thinking about what I need in this moment and in this tomorrow perhaps, or how this might impact us. So they're trying to think about long-term, but there's too many unknowns. So we have to change how we communicate with buyers. We still have businesses, we still have customers to serve, we still have people who are maybe even buying services. We have one client whose business has actually risen because they support companies from a remote workforce situation. So the demand for their product has actually grown considerably. But most of us are in a period of uncertainty. Certainly those of us in B2B marketing who have long, complex buying processes, those things have shifted. And we have to be sensitive to where people are from a mindset standpoint and the survival mode that we've all gone into, and adjust our marketing communications, our media plans, our physical events are clearly all changing, right? There's just so many of those things that we have to take into account.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, and I think all of the customers that you mentioned, they all have remote relationships generally with their customers anyway, right? They're not retail shops or coffee shops and so forth.
Yeah, the folks that we're working with are generally not businesses that have a storefront, as you would describe, but there has been a number of significant disruptions to sales processes, even in those more remote organizations. So while a lot of selling still happens on video conferencing, a lot of still happens in in-person meetings. Sometimes at client sites, sometimes at major industry events or their own individual massive summits and conferences that they run. And so while parts of their business are easily transferable to, I'm going to get on a video and talk to you instead of showing up at your door.
Right, or you'll still get the emails or phone calls you've been getting me all.
Right, but the receptiveness to those messages has changed, right? We can't, even today, Bob, you and I got on the phone and we had scheduled this quite a while ago and we had expected not to be talking about a global pandemic and the survival mode that our audience has gone to, we expected to talk much more directly about traditional account-based marketing and how we do that. But the reality
butterflies and deer running through the forest and happy things.
Right, but we can't do that because that's just not where the reality of the community is. Now, there are good things happening. There are actually really wonderful things happening, communities coming together and customers feeling supported and people being attentive to the tone of a communication. We're not suggesting you stop selling altogether or that you stop communicating altogether, but how we do that really has to more aggressively shift to a service mentality and not a selling mentality.
Yeah, you mentioned that you have to keep selling, and you also kind of correct yourself with you have to keep communicating, and that it becomes more of a give than an ask. But it's communicating, it's touching, and it's being relevant and
and you know what? Just like all ABM, we have to play for the long game. And this is a test of our ethics as a company and our grit as a company and our ability to weather difficult situations as individuals. Because, right now, I'll give you a very real example. I had a client, we were doing a big research project for them, and that involved calling up people and interviewing them as qualitative research. now's not the time for me to be disrupting people's survival mode with their own challenges going on to ask them to be interviewed about this particular topic. Now, sometimes, I'm not suggesting all research has to halt, but we have to change how we do that. So we put portion of that research on hold that we felt was insensitive because of the topic that we were asking about. And we also shifted our strategy. So instead of offering just a financial incentive, we gave people an option of a donation to a charity that is top of mind for people right now. So, we're still moving forward, but the long game is I had to be willing to tell that client that I'm going to put this on hold. That pushes off a payment cycle for me, a payment milestone, right? That's okay, because it's not going to be an easy shift, but it is the right thing to do. And we need to do that. And I'm in a position where I can, and I'm hoping little things too, like my housekeeper personally. I'm not having the housekeeper come to my home. That is protect us, but it's also to protect her. I don't want her exposed to anything that might be coming in and out of my house through my husband having to go to work or us going to a grocery store.
We're in the same boat.
Right. So I'm paying her. So, and as long as I can, we'll see, I don't know that will last forever, but we have to make decisions on the long run of our relationships with our buyers, meet them where they are, and serve them as best we can in this moment.
Well, and I think what you and I are doing with this podcast is wonderful, because we were going to stop, it's like, we don't want to bother people with the old stuff, and they're not ready. They don't want to hear anything, but this becomes more of a useful thing, and hopefully it'll be more valuable and more relevant and more appreciated. We'll
and you know what, I think we should take it as a lesson for all scenarios. Like, I hope never in my lifetime do we have a global pandemic like this again, but something will happen in our local town, in our region, at a customer client we've been working for a very long time, and the lessons we learned about how to communicate now will apply. We also see, like, Zoom. We're on Zoom right now recording this, right? There are businesses that are bursting at the seam with more need than what existed before, right? Whether those be hospitals, whether they be video conferencing capabilities, whether they be grocery stores, right? Manufacturers of certain products. And the way that they communicate and serve people in this time of need and how transparent they are is going to matter to whether their reputation grows in the long term or their reputation is hurt in the long term.
And like you said, the key is the long term.
Right. It's not the time to raise your prices 5 times because it's in higher demand, right?
But you can,
Right. It's just not. It's the time to and make it easier to do business with me than ever before, perhaps, and take out some of the process steps that may slow you down. We've seen some wonderful generosity in companies making products available at no cost that they think can really help, or deferred payments and things like that. And I've certainly seen that happen in a number of instances at client sites and also in my own personal interactions.
Yeah, and a lot of it's going to depend on how long this will be. If it's another 4 to 6 weeks, a couple of months, maybe, but 18 months, it's a whole different situation. And for the short run, I think we'll see all of this, like I said, camaraderie among people and really coming together and so forth. It's always bad people, but the generalness, I'm amazed that, I'm getting more acknowledged on the street. When we're walking by people, which people are taking lots of walks these days, there's a wave. There was never a wave before. There was, so I'm seeing more of that, which is a good thing.
That's the good thing about it. I will tell you, for me personally, I'm connecting with video chat with people that I'll often go weeks or months without talking to, but now I have like a weekly coffee chat on video, and that's a wonderful positive that's come from it. I really enjoyed that connection with people, and certainly I'm looking forward to the day that I can go and hug my parents and get back to some in-person meetings and attend some wonderful industry events and get back on stage and do all the things that happen. But in the meantime, I'm cherishing the digital connections that are getting better. And I expect that will actually, I hope that will be a sustaining value over time. Even when we come out of the other side of this, I think some of the ways that we are connecting digitally will continue, or at least I hope it does.
Yeah, so what's the name of your company? What are the services that you provide? Because I think of you as marketing, and when I think of marketing, I don't think of, for instance, internal communication.
Yeah, so we're the Marketing Advisory Network, and we are a strategic marketing consulting practice. We kind of block our practice into three chunks. One chunk is around messaging, positioning, message testing, competitive positioning, those kinds of research-oriented persona work, research-oriented things that we do there. One chunk is what I would call sales acceleration. So this is where, your demand nurturing programs, your email copy, your account-based marketing, direct mail campaigns, event strategies would kind of fall into that bucket. And then there's a third bucket that is probably maybe doesn't come as top to mind when you hear the name of the company, but we do a lot of work around strategy with our clients. So we do a lot of work around go-to-market planning. We do a lot of work around executive team alignment. We do work around, workshops and helping people build out their content strategy and really think through all of those pieces. And we do product launch support. So we help organizations bring a new product to market or bring an existing product to a new segment of the community. And that's something that's been a particularly slippery slope for companies right now as they're trying to decide, hey, I was going to launch this product in the first week in April, should I still do that? And we're having a lot of those very complex conversations with people to help make informed decisions.
Wonderful. And no, it's great that you've been able to make the shift, as we all are trying to, for sure. I'll include you in this group that I'm putting together of similar-minded folks, and just sharing best practices or best ideas or kind of general wisdom, and we'll all get through this thing.
Yeah, we will get through it, and I think we'll get through it stronger by sharing with each other. There are no right answers, candidly, in a lot of this, but we can hold ourselves accountable to what's the wrong things to do are sometimes obvious. We just need sometimes some outside perspective. I would love to join the session that you're talking about. I think we all need a little bit of group therapy as we struggle to figure out how to manage through all this stuff, and that we certainly do a better job of that when we're doing it together with each other.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate your time, Samantha. It's nice to catch up.
Thank you for
better times, but good attitude. I like your attitude. And how old are your helpers there?
So I actually have older children. So I in my home right now, I have a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 26-year-old.
Oh, my.
And I have a 21-year-old who is in Rochester, New York, who we're debating about whether they will come home to Massachusetts.
Oh, my. So they all came home.
Yeah. Two of them came home. Not necessarily by choice, but by circumstance. And I'm thrilled to have them with me. I have to admit it's difficult and challenging as it may be to balance each other's schedule.
I hope everyone gets along well.
We're a normal family, so we get along, and we have our moments, and when we have them, we acknowledge them, and we move on and get back to doing it. We have our separate corners. We're lucky to have a big enough house that everybody can have their own space.
Wonderful. Well, enjoy them. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.